In 2014, music legends Paul McCartney and Kanye West teamed up to create the track Only One, a tribute to West's daughter, North. The song was moderately successful, reaching number 35 on the Billboard Hot 100, but more memorable than the song itself is the younger generation's reaction to it. Quote, "Who the fuck is Paul McCartney? This is why I love Kanye, for shining light on unknown artists." A tweet from Twitter user @CurvedDaily. This tweet and many others like it shocked older generations who assumed that humans were born with an intrinsic knowledge of popular musicians from 60 years ago. These same shocked individuals then claimed that the younger generation's late discovery of an incredibly famous musician is evidence that young people are dumb and bad. This is not the first time this has happened, and certainly not the last. Even young musicians catch flack for not being up to date on every popular act your dad paid a nickel to see live way back when. Singer Billie Eilish was roasted online for not knowing the members of Van Halen in 2019. Even when young people do know all the old people's music, these old farts still try and make you feel bad for not discovering the music in the same way they did. And sure, it is kind of embarrassing to say you discovered a song from the hit Marvel film Guardians of the Galaxy, or from a TikTok of a cool dude longboarding and slugging ocean spray. But good music is good music, right? Well, it's happened again. Young people have discovered old people stuff again, and the internet is on fire. Hit Netflix series and 80s nostalgia machine Stranger Things has made the children aware of Kate Bush's hit single from 1985 off her 5th studio album, Hounds of Love. Bush initially shook the UK at the age of 19 in 1978 when her song Wuthering Heights topped the charts, making her the first female artist to hit number 1 in the UK with a self-written song. All 10 of her studio albums hit the top 10 in the UK, but even with her massive success in the UK, she was only moderately successful in the States. So it is that her most popular 80s release is just now in 2022 cracking the top 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the States, a first for any Kate Bush release. Although the song was wildly popular upon release and even more popular now, it struggled to make it out of the recording studio as Bush's label was hesitant to release the song under its original title, A Deal with God. The label feared that mentioning God in the title would stop the track from getting airtime in several countries, including Ireland, France, and Australia. The executives also wanted to release Cloud Busting as the lead single for the album. Bush insisted that A Deal with God better represented the album, and so a compromise was made. Bush's preferred single was released, but under a different name. The new name stuck, but the original title can still be seen on the album version, trailing behind the compromised title. That's right, we're talking Running Up That Hill, brackets A Deal with God by Kate Bush on Cover Me. That's right, it's Cover Me, the only podcast that compares famous songs to their many cover versions to find out which one can run up a building with no problem. I'm your host, as always, The Snake, joined by my not unhappy co-host,
Alex Mildenberger.
Alex Mildenberger, what's going on?
I'm not unhappy, that's for sure.
That's for damn sure, but is there thunder in your heart?
Is there thunder? No, it was raining, but I don't think it was thundering.
Oh yeah.
It's mostly sorted itself out, though.
Well, that's delightful. Glad to hear it, Alex. Alex, what's going on with that theremin? Let's get it out of the way right now.
Okay.
What's happened to it?
Nothing's happened with the theremin this week. I'm still like figuring out how to have a normal schedule again, and it's not going super well. It's going okay.
Oh, right. You're on
getting better.
Mixed work commute
but
now,
things
right?
yeah, which is actually pretty good, but I just have to get into a rhythm, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And if there's one thing a theremin doesn't have, it's rhythm.
That's right. It's not a rhythm instrument.
I mean, it could be, but like you really got to bring that rhythm. It's not like a guitar where the way you play it, at least in the strumming, like there's a rhythm there.
Right.
And I guess you are still bringing the rhythm, but I feel like strumming is inherently somewhat rhythmic. Whereas I don't know of an inherently rhythmic way to play the theremin.
Well, yeah, because it essentially just emits a tone that you alter.
Yeah. And, with the volume, sure. But you gotta move your hand in some strange ways that aren't conducive necessarily to playing the instrument. So,
right.
Or not directly related to it anyway. So I'm sorry to say there's not much to say about a theremin, but I did realize something because I've been trying to like at least get like some scales in on the guitar and stuff. I've not tried this before, but I played with the like rounded end of a pick, and I think that sounds pretty cool.
Hell yeah.
I don't know why I've never done that before.
So you were too scared to try something new, Alex.
Too scared to try something new.
That's how it always
specifically
is.
with like a very thick one, which is interesting because a lot of the stuff I've seen is like play when you're strumming with a very thin pick and it will sound much better. But I'm using like a heavy pick and the back end or the back one of the back corners, right? Because they're triangular more or less.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Dog, I had to use every quarter on a pick
because you destroyed them.
Yeah, because I just turn them into dust. And I'm like, well, I gotta use a different corner now. Which I don't know if that's just because bass strings are thick, my picks are flimsy, or I'm bad at playing bass. But
I don't know. I saw something that said you should also play bass with a very thin pick. And by saw something, I mean it was what's the guy from fuck. I don't remember his name.
The guy
Doesn't matter.
Fuck. My favorite film. Alex.
Yeah.
The 80s are back.
Yeah, they are.
Pick up the rotary phone, landline. The 80s are back.
Yeah, Russia is aggressive, invading people.
Tears for Fears released a new album this year.
Released an album. There's a Top Gun movie.
That's right.
Out. Kate Bush is at the top of the charts.
That's right.
There's a Ninja Turtles game coming out. That's probably more 90s, but there's a Ninja Turtles
late 80s
video game coming out next week.
And there's us talking about the 80s again.
Yeah, it's like junior high school all over again.
Yeah, buddy. That's when the 80s last came back.
I mean, certainly we were into it enough.
Never stopped being into it. Alex, my question to you. So this has come up. It's come up because of TV show. One, are you a Stranger Things fan at all?
I've seen some episodes and they're fine, but I haven't ever sat down. Like I watched the first episode. I think I've seen bits of other ones. It seems interesting. Like there's a lot of cool stuff. I like conspiracy stuff and aliens and monsters. I've just never gotten around to actually watching it.
Fair enough. I watched the first 2 seasons and I was like, well, that's enough. I said to myself, I've seen Stranger Things.
How could this get stranger? Yeah, so I did not know about the trailer that made this song popular again, or the scene. I think it was in a trailer.
It is in fact a scene.
Okay.
So it's this one character has a Walkman, and they at some point are, I don't know, going sicko mode or something, and then they bring them back to reality by popping in this hit tune.
I actually was followed a similar path though, because there was a YouTube video I watched that came out, I think, really, really shortly before the new season of Stranger Things.
Right.
That was talking about this song. And I was like, that's neat. And then suddenly I saw the song everywhere and I was like, is this a case of now I know it exists?
Right. Like you learn
was it always there? But no, it just by some, I think, coincidence, these two things happened, and it just happened to learn about this thing at the same time as everyone else.
Right.
Just in a slightly different path.
Yeah, I guess that was my next question. Is any familiarity with Kate Bush?
Not
for this.
Only because of it was a Trash Theory video on YouTube. There's a whole video on this song and the circumstances around it. And it was really interesting, and I watched it, and then suddenly it was everywhere, and I thought I was like, is this channel that popular? I didn't think so.
It's like, wow, this channel's changing.
Not that it's not popular, you know?
Right.
But no, it's Stranger Things, apparently.
It's Stranger Things, baby. Yeah, it's weird, because earlier this year, I started listening to this song. Like, I had known it before loosely, and then I was like, yeah, a Kate Bush song is pretty good. And so I just looked it up on Spotify and started listening to it, and now it's super popular this year.
Yeah.
So I think I was actually the big influence, the big changer.
I mean, someone had to start it, right?
Somebody had to. But honestly, my only experience of Kate Bush prior to this was way back in either, I think, 2014 or 2015. There was an independent Canadian play that my sister and I went to see called, it was called Kate Bowie.
Oh.
And it was, so we thought it was based on fact, but then it turns out it was just, it was a whole fiction. is whole cloth nonsense. So the fiction was that
just a big lie.
It's just a big lie. That was upsetting because they're like in 1981, Kate Bush and David Bowie rented out a cabin in the middle of the nowhere and tried to record an album together. No recordings have ever been heard from this session. I was like, wow, this sounds like a hot piece of rock and roll history.
It does, actually, when they present it
that never
that
happened. Way. So and that's how it was presented. And so I was like, well, this is bullshit. And so then you go and watch the play, and then they're not even David Bowie and Kate Bush. They're a Canadian couple pretending to be David Bowie and Kate Bush. Yeah!
Couldn't even spring for the real ones. That would make it a real story.
One. But like, and I mean, even in the fiction of the play, they're not actually David Bowie and Kate Bush.
Oh, okay. But they're like pretending to be.
Yeah, so they rent out a cabin to relive this fake scenario that didn't exist.
I see.
It's very upsetting to me to make up a piece of history and then be like, and here's a couple who then went out to relive this piece of history that I made up. It's like, fuck you. That's not interesting.
Too many layers of meta here.
Yeah, and then sometimes they would play music, but sometimes there was like a projector in the back, and it would be like, this is this song, and sometimes it was a David Bowie or Kate Bush song, but sometimes it was a Kanye West song, and you're like, who fucking cares?
Who's this guy Kanye West is singing with? Sounds old.
This old man that Kanye West is performing with. So that was my previous Kate Bush knowledge. I think that kind of turned me off of her because I was like, she's not even real.
She's just a Canadian woman pretending to be Kate Bush.
Yeah. And so that's my exposure to her. I found out this week, though, because I was re-looking up that play to see if it was famous or just some bullshit. It was just some bullshit, just some independent play. It's probably the most it's been talked about since it was originally performed. But yeah, it turns out Kate Bush is a David Bowie fan, so hey, she's all right in my books. Can't blame her. Can't say I blame her. And yeah, this track's a fucking banger, as nobody's surprised to find out.
Yeah, it really is, eh?
Yeah.
Wasn't necessarily expecting that, and I don't really have much background with Kate Bush. I think I listened to Wuthering Heights a bit ago. I don't remember. I heard it referenced somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other
obviously
thing.
There's a book, but
she's a big deal for being the first female musician to top the UK charts with a self-written song.
Yeah.
1978. That seems very late for that.
It does. But yeah, I don't know.
That's history for you, man.
They didn't used to let women write their own songs, and if they wrote the songs, they didn't let them also perform them.
Right.
So,
and if they did let them perform them, they sabotaged it in the mix.
So it wasn't great. But yeah, she's had, this was like her 5th album or something like that.
Yeah,
she
5th album.
Quite a bit of material out before this, but then this was like a huge hit for her, at least in the UK.
Yeah, big hit. Yeah, apparently a big reason she wasn't popular in the US is she didn't tour.
Right, and I remember here, like, supposedly that's why, or they had like a bigger budget for the music videos from this album because they didn't have to put a bunch of money into the touring.
Right, into the tour, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but she's always been a little, I guess, like, she's like alternative pop or whatever.
Yeah.
She was always a bit of an odd one.
Yeah, she shares a bit of that like art route that also like David Bowie has, where he was a mime beforehand.
True. Yeah, where it's a bit of like, she's got a bit of like modern dancey stuff, which I guess is kind of related to like miming, where it's all about like motion and expressing yourself through motion. If you watch the videos, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
We're definitely going to talk about. And damn, what a video and what a display of athletic ability. But
yeah.
First things first, we got to talk about these lyrics, Alex.
Yeah, let's talk about some lyrics.
Let's talk about these lyrics. Should I open with a quote by, because her quote kind of cracks the whole thing wide open.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so Kate Bush says, it's about a relationship between a man and a woman. They love each other very much, and the power of the relationship is something that gets in the way, creates insecurities. It's saying if the man could be the woman and the woman the man, if they could make a deal with God to change places, that they'd understand what it's like to be the other person, perhaps it would clear up misunderstandings. You know, all the little problems. There would be no problem.
Right. And yeah, I mean, that's the setup of the song is this like Freaky Friday body swapping.
Yeah, that's that really is it.
But I mean, it's an interesting idea. It's something that I'm sure a lot of people have thought of. Obviously, this song resonates, right? It's like if you could switch places with someone, like, could they understand you? Could you understand them better? And like, what is the difference in experience there? You know?
Yeah, and like her conclusion is much more like, because like obviously in a Freaky Friday situation, it's played for comedy and then for learning a moral lesson in the end. But what she ultimately proposes here is that not only would it be like a relieving experience, like a very enlightening experience, but it would make them superhuman in some way. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about verse 1 here. It doesn't hurt me. Yeah, yo. Do you want to feel how it feels?
Yeah.
Yo. Do you want to know that it doesn't hurt me? Do you want to hear about the deal I'm making?
This is interesting. Oh, no, it's not interesting. I mean, it is interesting.
You're right, it's boring as fuck.
Oh, Next no, you're verse. Right, it's not interesting. How do I want to phrase this? This
What's the angle, Alex?
First verse is all about her trying to express her own feelings about something, but it sounds like the other person is not necessarily either not understanding or not believing. Because she's trying to like reassure them, sort of, you know, like saying it doesn't hurt me.
Yeah.
Do you want to know? Like, no, really, it doesn't.
Do you want to feel how I feel to understand that I'm not feeling hurt right now?
And then also, do you want to hear about this crazy spell thing, this magic thing that's happening?
She's already in talks with God at this point. She's working out a deal with God. She actually has a quote that kind of talks about this line that Genius brings up. This is from a 1985 The London Times interview. She says, "It seems the more you get to know a person, the greater the scope there is for misunderstanding. Sometimes you can hurt somebody purely accidentally or by being afraid to tell them something because you think they might be hurt when really they'll understand. And that part there, being afraid to tell somebody, seems to be what comes into play here."
Mm-hmm.
She's been like, it doesn't hurt me. Like, you can tell me whatever you're feeling.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something I'm sure we've all come across, of the idea of is it better to be honest or to be gentle, I guess?
Yeah, gentle or polite.
Yeah, but a lot of the times being dishonest just makes problems worse. I mean, I'm sure it's the theme of a million episodes of television as well, but it's a lesson that's come up. I've definitely been told by people that I shouldn't tell them the thing I told them before. So, you know.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to know sometimes. And so, and once somebody tells you, it's like, well, don't tell me that kind of thing. You take that to heart, and then regardless of how close you are with the person and how much you might think they might understand, you're like, well, that one time.
Are they going to want to hear it?
Yeah, you're like, I don't want to hurt them, so... But she's saying here, and she's really setting up, this is like the pitch. She's pitching to the partner here, being like, do you want to know how it feels? Because I'm talking to God right now. I've got God on the line.
Got him on the line.
We're
cooking something up.
A major deal here.
We're going to close this deal. But yeah, the deal comes in the but I guess there's a pre-chorus as well. It's you and me.
It's you and me, right? Yeah, and I think it's interesting because, like, right off from the verse, the line is about a deal with God. So, like, there's a Kate Bush quote where she's like, the title of the song to me is still a deal with God. Mm-hmm. And after kind of reading up on it and listening to it this week, I'm like, yeah, that makes more sense as the title.
Yeah, usually it's kind of the other way around. It kind of seems like a compromise, right? Because a lot of the time they're like, we want to call the song this, but no one's going to know what the song is because it's a weird name. So in the brackets, we're going to put like the hook, and it's going to be like, yeah, oh yeah, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, and no one knows the name of the original name of the song. They're like, it's the one where they go, yeah, oh yeah. Where this is kind of the opposite, where she's like, the name of the song is something, and they're like, you cannot call it that. No one will play this song. For whatever reason, it was the 80s. It was weird. I don't I get it, but man. Like she's just I don't know. For religious
purposes, like all these religious nations won't play it if you make deals with God. So
like, fine, we'll call it "Running Up That Hill" because it makes sense too, because that's what the song is about. The hill being
right.
adversity or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, it's just backwards. So you have to give it the other name and then in brackets put the real name.
That's right. Which is strange.
Which I'm surprised they allowed that at all.
Yeah, it's since they were so strong against it. But I guess when you're on the album, it's a little tucked in. And it's like, oh.
True. Yeah, maybe the single.
Yeah, maybe the
Didn't
single
have
is
that. I don't know.
just straight. But we get to the chorus where she says, "And if I only could, I'd make a deal with God, and I'd get him to swap our places. Be running up that road, be running up that hill, be running up that building. Say if I only could." Oh.
Yeah, there's that title, but it's not just the hill. Like there's a road, there's a hill, there's also a building. Which maybe the building is taller than the hill. I don't know.
Alex, how many people do you know who can run up a building?
Spider-Man?
And Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog?
That's it. So this is what I'm talking about with the suggestion of becoming like more human than human, becoming superhuman by swapping places here.
I guess so. I mean, I think like the metaphor, I think, is, like I said, the hill's like adversity or whatever, right? The building is. So they are, but yeah, like you normally can't do that, right? Like running up the hill, there's more effort. Running up the building is possible, maybe not even possible, but now we can achieve these things because we now understand each other so well. We can solve these problems. The other thing, and I don't know how significant this is, but like road, hill, building to me is like increasing difficulty. Sort of like road, sure, we're running up the road. Okay, not necessarily the most impressive thing, but like it's something. The hill, a little bit harder, and then the building is like holy shit.
Yeah, that's a 90-degree incline.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So she's saying if we swapped places, like we would be so relieved. We'd be breaking down these boundaries between us and so relieved by like our perspective of each other and like our own understanding of each other, being able to see each other. What Genius says is that the running up is like a reference to the line or the old saying, like walking in somebody's shoes.
Right.
And so it's like if we got this swap in places, we would be at such ease that we would be able to run up a road, a hill, and even a fucking building. Like we would become unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean that seems to be the idea, which is, I mean, a little Evangelion in there too, breaking down barriers between people.
That's right. Congratulations.
Got to tie in Evangelion if I can.
Always gotta. Yeah, and then the other thing worth noting is making a deal with God. She, I think, originally had the idea to make a deal with the devil. Here she says, quote,
I remember that quote. It's a good quote.
Yeah, and then she says, and I thought, well, no, why not a deal with God? Because in a way it's so much more powerful, the whole idea of asking God to make a deal with you.
Yeah, like, I mean, obviously God's more powerful than the devil, right? Yeah, it also kind of flows a little better, but I guess you probably didn't have a melody at that point.
Yeah, and
if I could make a deal with the devil, then it wouldn't have been played.
And you can make a deal with the devil, as we've seen in folk stories and rock and roll songs throughout history.
True. Yeah, I don't know if you can make a deal with God, like traditionally, at least not in the concept of God I was brought up with.
No, certainly not. And so, yeah, this speaks not only to the like a wild idea dealing with God, but also sort of to the nobility of what she's trying to achieve here. She's trying to achieve the human instrumentality project here.
Right, on a small scale. But, trial run.
Yeah, exactly. Somewhere. Trial run. You got to start somewhere. Yeah, but those are the big points here. It's very funny how like almost singular this song is in its idea. Where it's like, what if we switched bodies? And then like every verse and chorus is like, what do we switch bodies?
Yeah, and then and then there's just one more verse, right?
Yeah, worth noting a later chorus. I think it's just the one. She says, "Be running up that building with no problems."
Right.
Further, it's sort of just underlining that point, but I think we nailed that anyway. Yeah, we get the next verse, Alex, and it says, "You don't want to hurt me, but see how deep the bullet lies. Unaware, I'm tearing you asunder. Oh, there is thunder in our hearts. Is there so much hate for the ones we love? Tell me, we both matter, don't we?"
Kind of start in with a segue, from the previous one. And also echoing the first line of the previous one, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't hurt me. You don't want to hurt me. Like, understand that. But you can see that there is pain.
Yeah, there's already pain here that's You've shot me with a gun somehow.
And so it's kind of poetic phrasing, but is it like unaware, as in like I am unaware?
Yes.
And I am also tearing you asunder because you're trying not to hurt me.
Yeah, they're both trying not to hurt each other, and unaware are causing deep bullet wounds and literally tearing the other asunder.
Yeah.
So it's to demonstrate that this isn't her, being a victim of pain, but rather the pain travels both ways.
And there's misunderstanding and hurt and not necessarily mistrust, but misunderstanding.
Yeah, miscommunication. There is, but there's also, I guess, like passion. There's like dark passion there because she says there's thunder in our hearts, right? So you can hear the rumbling, and it's like, well, yeah, shit's going on here. There's a storm brewing.
Oh, the sun's coming out, actually.
Well, I guess there's not a storm brewing.
Oh, well, that's just, I guess it's nothing.
Forget about it. The thunder's in our hearts. Great line, is there so much hate for the ones we love?
Yeah.
That's great.
And it's a very simple line.
Mm-hmm.
That poses a question. But why do you like it so much?
It's because she's talking about this pain, this accidental pain we inflict on each other. And it's like, well, the logical conclusion is like, do we really just fucking hate the people we love so much? And that's why there is so much pain being exchanged?
Right, but it's incidental, sort of. It's like, why can't we shouldn't we work together to try to erase that, even though it's not done on purpose?
Yeah, and then there's a good question. It's like, tell me, we both matter, don't we? This song has like some good, healthy relationship ideas.
Yeah.
In amongst all the turmoil. Usually songs are like, it's pain and suffering and everything is bad. And this one's like, let's find a way out. We can do this together.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the whole thing is about, right? It's about finding this common ground and understanding each other better, which is like a lot of songs we talk about don't have that side of it.
No,
so it's very like things suck and we're sad about it.
Yeah, so it's a very dynamic song. Even just the whip from "Is there so much hate for the ones we love" to "Tell me we both matter, don't we?"
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, we do both matter, don't we? Wow.
Yeah, and then we hit that pre-chorus. It's you and me won't be unhappy.
Because if they achieve this body swap, no more unhappiness because there's complete understanding.
There's going to be complete understanding. And that is, I think that's it for you. Oh, no, we get the bridge.
The bridge.
Oh, come on, baby. Come on, darling. Let me steal this moment from you now. Come on, angel. Come on, darling. Let's exchange the experience.
To me, it just seems like it's kind of describing the
act of swapping. Yeah, that's 100% what it is.
No, like the stealing a moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, typically when people like take, hey, let me grab a bit of your time, right? It's like, it's just, focus on me for a bit. But this is like, let me steal your perspective. Like, let me steal your actual eyes. Let me take your literal time from you where I will be experiencing as you. And then let's exchange the experience. That's pretty plain face.
Yeah.
It's two different ways of saying, buddy, let's fucking switch bodies.
Yeah, it's just all kind of wrapped in this, I guess, fairly like poetically minded language.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it really just has this one idea and is like, what if we did this thing? What then? And her idea of it is very positive.
Yeah, and even the way she addresses, because there's, in Freaky Friday, like we've brought up, which is for some reason the best touch point for this, it's always like, you don't fucking know what it's like to be me. You wouldn't last a day in my body. And then they body swap. But here she's like, come on, baby. Come on, darling. Like, it's affectionate terms. Yeah. She's like, let's trade. Like, and we will both learn from this together. Like, again, very positive.
Yeah. And like, that's it. I mean, the ending of Freaky Friday type movies, including the movie Freaky Friday. I mean, the lesson we learn is like, oh, I learned a little bit about you. You learned a little bit about me. We didn't actually understand how the other lived, and now we get along better, kind of thing.
That's right. And that's literally the goal here.
Yeah. So it's like, understand more about, that's it.
That's it. That's the song.
What was the one? There was a body swapping movie with Ryan Reynolds where he peed in a fountain.
Yeah, with Jason Bateman. I think it was called The Change Up.
I remember seeing that in theaters like 10 years ago.
Me too.
I don't know why. Yeah, that's it.
Because
Olivia
I
Wilde
thought it
is
would
in
be funny, and I thought
don't
it was
remember
funny
it
at the time.
Maybe it was funny.
Let's see. What's it got for reviews here, Alex? It's got a 6.3 on IMDb, 25% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 39 on Metacritic. Yeah, 2011. That's 11-year-old film. I think I rewatched it once. It was on Netflix, and it was like fine. It was okay. It's about
better.
what you expect from a Freaky Friday rehash.
Sure. This song's pretty solid though.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised people are liking it, because I mean, I did too, right? Like,
yeah,
we just all kind of heard it around the same time, just by luck.
Yeah, and yeah, I think it's a good song. It's fucking solid, well written, and I mean, this fucking synth, Alex, come on.
Yeah, pretty cool synthesizer. That's a Fairlight CMI.
Yeah,
which is like cutting edge synthesizer. I would compare it to a Synclavier, because I've seen them both and they look similar in that they're a computer with a CRT monitor and then like a big, like a full piano keyboard attached.
Yeah, I saw that wiki photo and I was like, they're like, it took a while to get the Fairlight CMI thing worked out. And I was like, no shit. This thing like requires a whole team to operate it.
And like, it's also the 80s. So, oh, damn, do they have that? No, that's got to be a new one. I'm looking at the screen on the one on the Wikipedia page. And it's like, there's no way they had that in the 80s. Maybe, though. I don't know. That's
Maybe.
Series 2. I don't know. It's got cool waveforms and stuff. But yes, that's what's playing this sound. It sounds like a cello sample that's been altered.
Yeah, I guess.
That's what
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, that's I read that somewhere. Someone else speculated that, not me. But yes, it's this Fairlight CMI synthesizer, which I guess she first used when she was working with Peter Gabriel.
Because they did a duet together.
Yeah, a couple songs. No Self Control is one. I don't really know that one. Games Without Frontiers is another one. Don't Give Up, but that's later.
Don't give up.
Yeah, so she sang backup or duet on a couple songs for him. And that's where she was first exposed to it. So then she like wanted to use one, so she did on her previous album, but then that was kind of a mess. So then she ended up buying one, I think. Mm-hmm. And supposedly there were only like 3 other ones in the UK at the time.
Fucking hell.
And then she got one for her studio.
Yeah, for her home studio, which is where this was like first laid down on an 8-track.
Yeah.
Using the Fairlight and then the Lindrum electric drums.
Yeah, that's the rhythm. There is a drummer on this track as well, Stuart Elliott.
Elliott, yeah.
But yeah, they have the Lindrum doing the.
Yeah, and then there's also a bass on this, which is hard to pick up on. Yes, that's Dale Palmer playing the bass. He also programmed the Lindrum. So, and he was the
whole rhythm section.
Yeah, I think he really locks in with those drums and just does like a muted bass line around it. You can actually hear it. It's triplets.
Just
There's
doing
one point.
Yeah,
it's just that.
Yeah, it all kind of builds because it's actually fairly simple compositionally, but then it like builds up and there's a lot of like ambient stuff and space that gets filled.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you're highlighting Kate Bush's vocals as well, which are just killer. Sure. Alex, did you pick up on the balalaika in this?
No, I didn't.
I did not either. I wouldn't know a balalaika if it came up and slapped me in the face.
I saw that it was credited, but I do not know where it plays.
Yeah, credited to her brother, Patty Bush.
But there's a guitar in this.
Yeah, for sure.
But who gets credit? Who's credited with playing that guitar? Yeah,
that's Alan Murphy.
Okay. I was like, are they just like ripping on this balalaika? No, I doubt it. Yeah, I don't know where that comes in.
Yeah,
Seems
I'm not
really
sure
buried
either.
to me.
But the key elements are pretty easy to pick up on because they all come in pretty early. You get this sort of like drone at the start here. This. Then the drums rip in.
Yeah. Oh, I saw a description of that. I can't remember who said it. Paul Hardiman,
Mm-hmm.
who was like a producer, described it as a wind train sound.
Yeah, I could believe that.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know where it came from though.
I've never ridden a wind train before, but
Yeah. It's just that kind of like fade in ambient stuff.
yeah.
And then come the bump, ba-da-bump, ba-da-bump. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Kate Bush. I think all the vocal tracks on this are Kate Bush.
Yes, they are.
And she sounds... Her voice is very distinctive. But if you compare this to like her early stuff, it's a lot more mellow, I think. Her voice has changed over time, the way she sang. So if you listen, again, compare it to like Wuthering Heights, which is pretty early, one of hers, she's definitely, it's, I say more shrill. That's probably not the best way to describe it. But there's, like, this is more mellow for sure.
Right.
And I know, I saw another quote.
Sharper.
She was talking about her previous album just before Hounds of Love, about how she said, like, oh, it's the first time in my life I've actually liked my voice. And it's like, oh, I think it was pretty good before that too, but it's definitely like different, like a bit different.
Yeah, she pulls in a little more like almost bass or like there's less treble in it. That Wuthering Heights has a bit of like kind of 60s, 50s throwback of when like female singers were really just like mashing that treble. Whereas like this has a bit
lot
of
of things were mashing that treble.
That's true. Like a lot of things in that time were, but like that, her voice on Wuthering Heights would not be out of place, 20 years prior.
Yeah.
But here she's got a little more, like she's still definitely singing high, but there's a little theater in it that kind of spreads out. You got a little more bandwidth there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely different. I wasn't expecting it to be that different, but I just played them back here, and that's a pretty stark difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and we set that up, and you get that fucking killer synth, and
yeah, there's another one that's kind of like twinkling.
Yeah.
In the background, I can't imitate it. It's too much.
Yeah, it's a little too tricky, but it is there. So yeah, there's some good synth layering in here as well.
Yeah, and that like main riff, that and it's just kind of playing around. So again, one of those like shockingly simple things that just works very well.
Yeah.
And it plays at various times. Oh, I just noticed I made note. Is there so much hate for the ones we love line that gets doubled. So obviously you're not the only one who likes it, which I guess
there's so much hate for the ones we love. Yeah, no, it's a tight line.
Yeah. And then it kind of, it builds in like standard ways as well. We get a little bit more of everything. So if you compare the pre-choruses, yeah, there's more of like the lead, which is that riff that I would describe. And then once you get to the next chorus, that twinkling synth, there's more of it. Everything's a bit louder.
Yeah. And then it's just the chord changes on that main synth line.
And then we don't get really a switch up until the bridge, of course. Lots of doubled up vocals. This is where the guitar comes in too, playing a shorter kind of muted part.
Yeah.
Which I...
Yeah, so a lot of the changes are in stacking vocals, adding a little guitar in maybe. But yeah, that's what really makes that bridge stand out, is like it's like fucking 6 Kate Bushes at once.
Yeah, but it's just like the things that are there's more of them. As opposed to like a million things. I still don't think it's like that insanely complex.
It's not. And like, because the drums are like consistent the whole time.
Yeah.
And then the bass is consistent the whole time. So your rhythm section is just stable. Like, and then the synth is either chords and that twinkly synth, or it's the hook riff, that
yeah. And then, end of the bridge, of course. That gated echo on the toms.
That must have been that Stewart on the track there, Stewart Elliott.
Yeah, because he's doing basically everything that isn't just like, which is wild. They're like, we got this probably very expensive drum synthesizer. Price, US, $2,995. Not insanely expensive for audio equipment, but probably back then
not cheap.
more. 1982? So 1985, $3,000. Yeah. That's probably a lot more now, right?
Probably a lot more. I don't know the inflation numbers, but
like it's wild that it's like, I mean, that's like the backbone of it, but it's like it's fairly simple for like an electronic beat to us now, right?
Yeah,
although
it is.
Supposedly the composition was originally started on the Lindrum, and that's the part that came in first was the rhythm.
Yeah. I think it was said that they had like a lot of it really laid out by the time they were in the studio.
Just had to record it.
Yeah, and it was the Fairlight hook, so it was that Fairlight CMI that was really what needed to get figured out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get that steady rhythm. You get some kind of warped voices near the end of the track.
Oh yeah, where it kind of doubles up. And then it's got her voice, and then like a pitch shifted down version of her voice, which like seems to be in reference to the body swapping thing. Now there's two voices.
Right,
one
two
is
voices.
Masculine. One is more masculine. One is more feminine because it's lower and higher. And that's the outro, right?
Yeah, and then it fades on that wind train sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck cool song.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those very 80s songs because it's like kind of earlier synthesizer experimentation in pop.
Yeah, when they were really
not really what we do with synth so much these days.
No.
And the equipment is old, but kind of distinctive in that way. Yeah,
I would say it's distinctly 80s without sounding like musty and dusty.
Yeah, it's on the Peter Gabriel relation is maybe obvious. I would definitely relate it to compare it to his output.
It sounds exactly like Sledgehammer. You're right.
Yeah,
Alex.
This is basically Sledgehammer.
No, but you're right. It's like it's of the era, but it sounds like a little fresh. It sounds like, it sounds pleasing to the ear.
Yeah, stands the test of time, maybe better than some others.
Mm-hmm. Then say the synth solo from Tiffany's I Think We're Alone Now.
You mean the greatest synth solo ever written?
I do mean that, yes. Yeah, can't get enough of it. I haven't memorized, so obviously it can't be that bad. Alex, let's talk about another interesting part of this song, the music video.
Yeah, let's talk about the music video.
So we kind of foreshadowed a bit of already. We talked about how it is like it's choreographed interpretive dance.
Yeah. With a few twists. Twists. Most of it takes place in this kind of like purple lit room.
Yeah.
And with Kate Bush and then a man dancer.
That is Michael Herview.
Michael Herview. And they're both wearing these gray outfits that kind of have really baggy pants, and then they look, the top, it's like a leotard, I guess, right? Like it's kind of
it's like a leotard with a non like skin tight bottom. Yeah. And they're both wearing the same thing, which I think is significant for the like for the like fusing minds thing. Yeah.
And then the way they're dancing, particularly at the start, is like there's a lot of like body contact, and they're sort of like melded together in certain ways because of the baggy pants. Especially, they sort of sometimes just look like one blob.
Yeah, and sometimes I was like, I was wondering if they were doing different shots when they were like rolling around on the ground, because I was like, wait, I thought it was the dude holding Kate Bush. Is it Kate Bush holding the dude? And then it's just me not paying close enough attention. But it really does blur the lines between the two.
Yeah. Because of that. And then there's some motions of, you can see like them pulling away from each other, or they'll pull each other back together, kind of thing. In particular, usually Kate's trying to walk away or push away, and then he'll pull her back in.
Yeah. He really, she, especially in that that chorus, she like kind of looks like she's trying to jump out of his arms, and then he kind of like moves her over to each side as she does these swimming moves and stuff.
Yeah, they have a thing where they like reach their hands up. So I kind of find it.
Yeah,
they do a couple times.
Yeah, like the back end of the chorus, or around 110 is the first instance,
and just kind of like sway back and forth with their arms in the air, and they're like, whoa! They look like wacky wavy arms, those inflatable things at car dealerships.
Yeah, exactly like those.
A little bit.
Probably the goofiest part of the video.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny move. And then so at some point, I forget what point in the song, but like she's running away from him and he kind of tackles her.
Yeah, he like chases after her. He tackles her to the ground. They fucking die.
Or they at least swap souls.
Yeah.
And then it shows the same scene, but she's
with her chasing him.
instead. Yeah. And then after that, there's more of that dancing. The room change, like the lighting changes.
Yeah.
As purple, it's a little more like spotlit. They do briefly do the dance from Majora's Mask. If you go to like 225,
I just saw that. And there's a lot of they kind of do a bit of it there around 235. I think they kind of do like they're pulling a bowstring, which will come up later.
That happens a few times, and I don't know exactly what the significance is, but the cover of the single is also her
pulling a bow,
like with an actual bow and arrow.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily know what that means.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But
if it's supposed to be about the unification of certain elements, like an arrow, a bow, and a string. Or like
having a target.
Right, yeah.
And like aiming at it. Like if you're going after your goal, you need to...
Or if it's about like how push and pull are united. If it's just like an opposites make a whole kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So there seems to be some kind of symbolism there. Or maybe she was just really into archery at the time.
That could be.
Like, that's possible. It is like a single pop star's vision. So there's got to be, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't have to mean anything.
That's right. But what does probably mean something is when he disappears into the shadows and then just a bunch of people with his mask, a mask of his face on.
Yeah, well, you don't even see them at first because they're walking away from the camera. And then, like, Kate Bush is trying to push through this crowd and get back.
Yeah, she gets stampeded.
But all these people are pulling them apart, and then, like, they move into a hallway. That's very... I don't know if it looks like any movie in particular, but it makes me think of, like... futuristic.
It's got sci-fi dystopia vibes.
Yeah, sci-fi dystopia is the phrase I'm trying to think of. Especially everyone's wearing gray, and then everyone has that dude's face.
Yeah,
I forget his name.
Michael.
Yeah.
Michael
and
Herview.
Kate.
Michael and Kate. Hot Mike, as we call him.
Someone called me Mike yesterday.
Somebody called you Mike?
Yeah. Well, they thought I was Mike, and I was like, I'm Alex. They're like, oh, sorry, Alex.
Damn. It's a wild story.
A
story of mistaken identities.
Yeah, exactly. So there's more dancing, and there's big windows, and
big fucking windows. And then he's also is he also in a hallway at one point?
She's in a hallway.
She's in a hallway with a bunch of
surrounded
Kate Bushes.
by herself.
Yes.
So I don't know what everything is going on here. There's a lot of like vague imagery.
I would say like the masks on the people is like the sort of separation of these two who we're maybe seeing them clearly in love and kind of like flowing in and out of each other as one person, but then something gets in the way of that, and then they're just kind of
and maybe that's other people, or maybe that's other facets of themselves.
Yeah, they're dealing with like the facets of themselves, these masks, these versions of themselves, and so Kate Bush is both lost in her versions and ideas of what Michael Herview's supposed to be, and also what she's supposed to be. So she's caught up in the sort of separation rather than in that unity that they used to have.
Yeah, and it's pulling their selves apart.
Yeah.
But they do rejoin together later on. And then they do the bow pose like a lot.
Right. That could also be a reference to like the bullet wound kind of line. Like they are consciously shooting each other because they have pretty neutral faces while they're doing it, but actually a little dark, a little angry. But yeah, we get them pulling these bows for a bit, so and that's how.
But it also ends. Like it shows them like a couple times, like the camera pans.
Yeah, and so like it looks like Kate it's a long chain.
Pans to Mike, and then pans back. Not back, but continues panning in the same direction.
So it pans
and
left.
It's Kate again.
And it's Kate again.
So I have to wonder if she just like ran around. I feel like that would be the simplest way to do this, but I don't know if that's a good idea.
It might be, yeah. Because there's enough time.
It should be to just like go around like a cameraman.
Yeah.
And get into position and not look like you're panting from running. It wouldn't have been that far, right?
It wouldn't have been that far, and she could have.
They're clearly in shape.
She could have slipped between his pajamas. Yeah, they're clearly in shape.
True, she could have gone through his legs.
Through his legs, yeah. Yeah, that's to say this. Like, there's some goofy shit in here, but my God, the dancing is actually pretty cool and very, very difficult looking.
Yeah, Kate Bush tends to have like some unusual dancing in her videos with a lot of like arm swinging and stuff like that.
She's got some hard opinions on dance too. There's a quote regarding this music video where she says, "During the gap between the last album and this, I'd seen quite a few videos on television that other people had been doing, and I felt that dance, something that we'd been working in, particularly in the early videos, was being used quite trivially. It was being exploited, haphazard images, busy, lots of dances without really the serious expression and wonderful expression that dance can give. So we felt how interesting it would be to make a very simple routine between two people, almost classic and very simply filmed. So that's what we tried, really, to do a serious piece of dance."
I mean, they probably succeeded. I'm not really a dance critic or an understander of dance, but it seems like, I mean, in terms of what dancing is, like I said before, expressing yourself through motion, it's like, yeah, I think they probably did that.
Yeah, and it looks
it's
good.
Successful, right?
Therefore, it is. I can't speak to the history of dance or whether they nailed all their poses or whatever.
Don't really need to. In this case.
As a spectator, I spectated this and said, "This is good."
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all you need. Interestingly, though, somebody who didn't think it was good, a corporation called MTV.
MTV.
MTV. So Patty Bush. Yeah, he says, so Patty Bush said the thing, he said, MTV weren't particularly interested in broadcasting videos that didn't have synchronized lip movements in them. They liked the idea of people singing songs. So when they would play this song, they instead used like live concert footage of her singing the song.
Oh, so weird.
Yeah.
They just, I mean, it seems so quaint now. They're like, no. If the lips don't match, I know I've said this before. I'm like, oh, they can barely even lip sync this, but that's usually if they're trying to and fail, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's so weird.
It's such a like old-timey perspective of like just like film in general. It's like, we need to see the lips moving so they know they're singing the song.
If they're not tracking the song, then we're not going to show it.
Well, we're not going to show it.
You got to believe they're singing it so they can sing along too.
How are they even going to know that's Kate Bush? She's not singing. She's dancing.
Yeah, very strange.
Yeah, quite bizarre.
And I don't think that's an issue anymore.
No, I mean, look at some of the music videos that have like reached peak popularity. Even Take On Me doesn't have a lot of lip syncing in it. Like, there's some shots of the band, but it's predominantly what it's remembered for is the story scenes and the comic book art style.
Yeah, and that had to have been around this, right?
Yeah, like that was.
Your Take On Me was.
Take On Me is
84. It's just before this.
So yeah, it was before this. So it's like,
I mean, it's just a bunch of execs who don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Exactly, it's a real executives not knowing what the fuck they're doing. Yeah. But let me tell you this, Alex, we got to know what we're doing next. The people want to know what we're doing next. And what we're doing next is we're talking about cover versions. God damn it.
We are. That's what we're here for. We're here to talk about cover versions.
We're talking covers, Alex, and we're starting in the year 2007 with the Natalie Gauci.
If I only could make a deal with God and get him to swap out places, I'd be running up that road, be running up that hill, be running up that building.
I was saying Gauci or Gauci.
Gauci in 2007.
Say it in an Australian accent.
Oh,
she's from Australian Idol Season 5 in 2007.
That's right, and she won Australian Idol. Yeah, in the year 2007, said Johnny Cash. She won Australian Idol in 2007 after winning a Triple J talent contest. Triple J is a radio station in Australia.
Oh, is that the one we talk about sometimes?
Yeah, because they have acts on to do covers and stuff sometimes. Yeah. She's an Australian musician, producer, and teacher. And she did perform this song on Australian Idol. But I think this is maybe different from that because it features not quite your traditional like pop band laying down the backing track.
Is the name of the album, so I think it's just stuff that she did.
Yeah, I think it's just like her first. Oh, you think it's just stuff she did on the show?
Well, I don't know if it's from the show, but it is all.
It's all songs she did on there. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I think it's different takes, because I don't think they would have done this, like, hand drumming, like, Eastern-inspired track.
like I want to say sitar, but maybe that other thing that I'm blanking on the name of right now.
The balalaika.
Maybe. What was the other one that was in Hurdy-Gurdy Man?
Hurdy-Gurdy Man? Oh, the, shit. The George Harrison one. Tambura.
Something like that.
Something like that.
It's that kind of sound. But yeah, I agree. It doesn't sound like what we normally get from talent show entries, which is like, go as close to the original as you can and play it as safe as you can.
Yeah.
This has got a number of different things going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like different sections as well. You know, it covers a lot of ground. It almost seems like it might be trying to, like, because it's fairly short, kind of show off in the talent show way.
Yeah, because it is a 2:30 track, and she's cut the song in half.
But yeah, it really does cover a lot of ground. Like there's that intro with the tambura type sound.
Yeah, doing the synth riff.
Yeah, and like the drums, which are definitely like, I said definitely and then didn't really know.
They're definitely drums.
I'm gonna say hand drums to be as vague as I possibly can. You know.
Welcome to the Vague Drum Knowledge Club,
vague
brother.
Drum knowledge. That's all in the intro, and then like there's kind of a synthesizer too, doing like the sequence thing, or maybe a looped filter.
Mm-hmm.
And then other stuff, like there's a big guitar that comes in near the end. It's a little more like guitar pop sort of deal. So there's a lot of like ground covered in this.
A lot of ground covered. You got that buzzing synth at the bottom of the track here too, right off the bat.
Yep. So, oh yeah, and then that bass comes in. That's a little weird, but that bass does come in. It's kind of slow, like plodding bass. So yeah, a lot of stuff in not a lot of time. It's like, is it too much? Maybe, but it's definitely more interesting than most. Than
your typical reality show, talent show affair
that we talk about.
Her voice is fine, like it's passable. She goes for a little more restrained approach, I think, than Kate Bush does.
It's not like a crazy out there.
No, it's like it's
melody or anything. Like she doesn't need to hit like insanely high notes or anything like that. But yeah, I guess it's all about the performance, and she doesn't have like the unusual factor to her voice that.
I guess the one thing she does is the "If I Only Could" at the end of the chorus. She does a descending and harmonized bit there. If I only could. Around like 50 seconds.
I would say I liked some of the sections.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the later ones are like just okay.
Yeah, there's a real drum focus, weirdly enough, in the verses.
True. Kind of cuts down and right?
Second one does it where they add in like a kit drum. Yeah. And then but they keep some of that like hand drumming in there, and then there's not a lot else in the track.
Yeah, which is cool, but then like I guess it was like the later stuff where it is more about just like guitar chords. I'm like, it was more interesting before.
Yeah, I liked it more when there was weird instruments coming in, when you're really trying to set up a different energy.
Yeah, and it's not like the most interesting guitar sound. So it's like
it's literally just driving distorted guitar. It's basically butt rock.
Yeah. So it has some good stuff in it for sure.
Yeah, I think it had a good start, weak finish.
Mm-hmm.
Not the worst we've heard from talent shows though. So I think that's why maybe I'm playing a little softball with it, because I'm like, wow, it's better than a lot of other stuff we've heard in that genre of cover. But Alex, we're going to talk about literally the whole Bolivian army in 2009.
Yeah, incredible. Wow, that they coordinated this well.
Yeah.
Or they're a very, very small army.
Yeah, Bolivia might have a small military force.
And based in Tacoma, Washington. Weird.
Weird, very strange. This is an indie rock band,
Yeah.
Tacoma, Washington. And this version honestly sounds more like pop country.
Yeah.
Maybe just vocally.
Yeah, it's a little more of that. Their Facebook page also describes them as co-ed indie rock. That's weird. I mean, I think that's an old description though, because
they got rid of all the others, all the women. No, just kidding.
Also, as far as I can tell, I think, 3 of them have the last name Kite. So I don't know if it's siblings or maybe a couple and then a sibling of one.
Yeah, that's hard to say for
Anyway,
certain.
Getting distracted by the band's details. But no, yeah, it definitely has that. Yeah, there's a bit of country there, isn't there?
If you hit the line like you wanted to hear about the deal I'm making,
mm-hmm.
And like even like the guitar arpeggio that backs the verse, boom, boom, boom.
Guess so. I guess it's still like country rock though.
Country rock.
Because there is like a fair amount of guitar, and like the beginning is.
Right. Yeah, it's big drum hits.
Yeah, it's Come on, feel the noise for a second.
Yeah.
Just 1 second though. It changes. What else? What else is it? They have swapped out almost everything.
Yeah, it's really like stripped for parts to just have the instrumental. I mean, not the instrumental. The lyrics are there.
Yeah.
And everything else is just weird country rock pop.
Yeah, but it is quite different. But yeah, I'm just a little underwhelmed by the things it turned into.
Yeah.
Like there is like a constant drum beat in the intro, like we discussed. There's like a guitar playing arpeggios instead of the synth riff. So like there's stuff there that has replaced everything. It feels smoother to me in that way that when you get those like driving distorted guitar chords, you can kind of blend everything.
Right. Yeah. It's a little flatter, a little smoother.
Yeah. And that's it. I agree. It felt a bit flat to me, but if you jump from the beginning to the end, there's quite a bit more going on at the end.
Oh yeah. It's quite loud. There's an electric guitar going.
Yeah. It's very like textury though, and kind of a version of that like really texture based guitar playing that I would have associated with a few years earlier than 2009, but I guess it makes sense. 2009 is probably an appropriate time period, but it wasn't really like my style of rock and roll, you know?
Right. Yeah, I hear you. I can pick up what you're putting down, Alex. Yeah, there's also, you get the addition of like violin strings on the second verse. So there is like build in here. I think the problem might be is that everything they add is pretty generic, whereas the things they take out are iconic.
Yeah, which is a shame, because it's just less memorable.
Yeah.
But it does get quite dense.
It does get quite dense. Now, do you think at the beginning of the track there, when they've got those drums going, is that supposed to be the synth hook? Nah.
I don't hear it.
It's just because it's got a different odd rhythm to it, but that's just them doing something. Yeah, it turns into a generic country pop rock song.
Yeah, I guess the one other thing is kind of just changes like the stress on the vocals.
Right.
So the example I have here, instead of if I only could, it's if I only could.
Yeah.
So is it that significant? No, but it sounds different.
But yeah, it's a little different.
But I didn't get much out of this one either.
Yeah, you get a guitar solo.
There is a guitar solo. It's the type of guitar solo that has like a lot of fast strumming in it.
Yeah.
Which I am okay with that.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
But yeah, just was never really into this like kind of rock style, country rock thing.
Yeah,
and then it does feel even and flat, even though it's not that. And I don't know, maybe it's just such a gradual build that you never really feel the change. You know, it's a frog in the boiling water thing.
Boiling water, yeah.
But yeah, it didn't It didn't speak to me all that.
And I think we lose some of the weight of the original. Though. The original has this weighty synth. It's got these lyrics that are dealing with like a kind of crazy concept, man. Freaky Friday over here.
Yeah.
And then there's just kind of none of that in this version. Like the Natalie version before at least tried a little something with the instruments. Is like, we'll build a little bit of mystery in here, deal with the synth hook, but on a sitar or a tambura or something. But this one's just like, I don't know, fuck it, let's put some yeehaw energy in here and hope it works. Hills, they got those in the prairies. Let's go. Let's give her. So you know what? Maybe you need a bigger army for this one.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe you need a music video.
Maybe, and if you did, it would probably just be footage of a run in Port Townsend, Washington.
Yeah, strange decision that.
Yeah, I didn't even watch it the whole way through because I was like, wait, is this just the whole thing? And I was like, yeah. I was like, okay.
I like skipped around. I was trying to figure out if there was a system because they kind of have a few different things they do. Like they'll show a bit of the run. It's just a fixed camera with people running by the road.
Kind of fading in and out.
Yeah, sort of at a 45-ish angle, more like a 60. And then to pass time, they'll do a few things. Sometimes they'll just fade from one shot to a later shot. There's a section where they speed it up. I think that this happens twice. It happens in... I wrote it down somewhere.
It's probably
the bridge and then the guitar solo.
Okay.
There's parts where they slow it down, but I couldn't tell, like... It wasn't like, we slow it down for the verses or whatever. It wasn't consistent. There's also, when they slow it down, it's sepia.
That's right. Yeah, there was like changing of the filter.
Yeah, so like there's stuff they're doing, but I don't think it has any purpose.
No, I would agree to that.
Yeah. Although what's fun about the sped up one is that because of, I don't know, something about the rate that it's sped up at, it looks like people are just hovering by, like like without moving their legs. So it looks like everyone has Heelys though. Or like several people as they go by, which is kind of funny. But yeah, there's not really that much going on, and it's it's probably like a charity thing but I don't actually know.
Yeah, it's the roadie run, number 36 in Port Townsend, Washington. It's a fun run of some kind. So I imagine there's like a charity or something going on there. Running, Alex, the favorite hobby of these people, and also Sonic the Hedgehog.
Another Sonic the Hedgehog connection.
Bentley Jones. What?
The other thing about this video that is just something I noticed. It's a fun like bell curve. As you can see in the start, there's a few people, out ahead, and then a lot of people in the middle, and then a few stragglers. So that's kind of interesting, but not really.
You know who could run up a bell curve, Alex? Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog. Wow. And then both sides.
Yeah, easy. With no problems. But we were talking about Bentley Jones in 2011.
Yeah, we're talking about Bentley Jones.
Yeah.
This one was weird because I heard it. I listened to it without seeing the name, without seeing anything about it. And I was like, this guy's Japanese. 100%. This is a Japanese man. It's not.
No, it is not.
But he is active in Japan.
Yes. He like regularly appears at the like Sonic the Hedgehog concerts they have out there. Which is
all Sonic the Hedgehog.
It's all Sonic. He composed for at least for Sonic 2006. He did Silver the Hedgehog's theme.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, he's done other work with Sega, so he has like regular work in that field. And so yeah, the fact that you've mistaken him for a Japanese man is not.
The reason is because of the way he pronounces some words. Sounds like he has a Japanese accent. But I wonder if maybe he's just picked up some vowel sounds. Because I assume he lives in Japan. Because he seems to only produce music for the Japanese market.
Yeah, that would make sense.
But I didn't actually look up any of these details. That said, I could have. Because if you go to his BentleyJones.fandom.com/wiki/Bentley_Jones #the_birth_of_Bentley_Jones.
Right.
Probably
yeah,
actually
okay.
didn't need that anything after the pound.
Well, no, that would
he's got
help.
an extensive page with a lot of details about his music and career.
Yeah, I like skimmed it and I was like, this is too much, man. I just
Yeah, there's so much. Oh yeah, featured in the video game Sonic the Hedgehog and released on CD. Wow.
Yeah, he's got one that was like the title theme for one of the racing games too. Like, he's in tight with Sega.
Yeah.
These guys love him.
And he does this as well.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the edginess of this song, not out of place in a Sonic the Hedgehog title. So
No? Where it's like very polished, but also, I don't know.
it's polished, but like it's like, what if Sonic the Hedgehog had an edge?
Yeah.
What if Shadow had a gun?
I mean, Sonic is supposed to be a bit edgy. That's like half his thing.
That's his. Yeah, it's half his
Well,
thing.
maybe
The other
not.
half.
He has an attitude, I guess.
He's got an attitude problem.
He wags his finger.
That's right. Can you imagine if Sonic the Hedgehog came up and wagged his finger at you? And you wouldn't be able to do anything. You'd try to like be like, "Hey, you fucking do that to
if
me."
he tried to do anything, he could run away.
Yeah,
He's so fast.
he's a fast guy.
This is like a really big electronic version.
It's like big electronic emo,
Emo. Yeah, I can see that.
and like some acapella at the beginning with these like breathy backing vocals. This rhythmic
Yeah,
breathing.
which is kind of like reminds me of Personal Jesus, which we just talked
oh
about.
yeah, yeah.
This is a little bit like that, kind of, not really. But yeah, it's like it's huge, you know. Like like go to the chorus, the synths are everywhere, and there's an arpeggiated line, and there's like a riff from the original, and there's that breathing sound. There's just so many things, but there's several sections of this one as well. So like you get the more stripped down parts where it plays this like really processed digital piano sound, more of a breakdown in the pre-chorus section, and then the big build kind of builds through the verses. Or, I mean the chorus, sorry, not the verses, the chorus.
Right.
And what's weird is that like it kind of treats the second verse as a bridge almost, because the second verse has a unique musical profile.
Yeah, it goes pretty buck wild.
Yeah, compared to like it's like I mean I said dubstep. It's not that, I'm sure. But
It has
like,
elements of that, and you're getting a little chopping of the vocals there.
And like it builds and drops into that too. Like the chorus is the build, and then it drops into the verse, which is a little odd. And then it never revisits that. And even for the bridge, which is where I would expect to hear it, it just kind of like continues its like big synth build thing. So it's an odd structure.
Yeah. It's a very dramatic version. And with odd structure.
And the way he says could makes him sound Japanese, which I guess, I mean, he speaks Japanese, so.
Yeah. Maybe he was accidentally speaking Japanese there.
Maybe.
What else is there to say about this one, Alex? Like big use of sparse sections, real synth builds, a lot of layering vocals, a lot of like echoes of lines. Like on the "Is there so much hate for the ones we love?" We get a higher voice. Like, "Is there so much hate for the ones we love?"
Yeah, a lot of layers, a lot of synthesizers.
Yeah, a lot of layers. There's eventually like acoustic guitar in the mix too. Like
acoustic
strumming.
guitar?
Yeah, it's just like strumming. So you just hear like the string on finger contact or on pick contact, but it's there.
Yeah, this is a lot.
It's a lot, really dramatic, and I think that's a fair interpretation. People accuse the '80s of being cheesy, right?
Sure.
And because it's like pretty raw emotions is what I interpret it as we don't like to deal with all that raw emotions all the time. So this one really like leans into that with a little bit of like a 2000s emo bent. That's my hot take.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty sensible take. It's just a take.
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah. But if you want something that gives it a little more of like an 80s like heavy metal touch, buddy, we got to talk about Jorn in 2016.
If only could, I'd make a deal with God. I'd get him to swap our places. Be running up that road, running up that hill. Be
talk about it. I've been saying it Yorn.
It's probably Yorn. You're
right.
I'm so bad at remembering people's like nationalities and how to hit those J's. Let's talk about Yorn in 2016.
It is so it's a band named after the frontman. They're Norwegian and they're metal.
Yes.
A hard rock / metal.
Hard rock
it's not
slash
like black metal.
And this guy is like big in the Norwegian scene. He's worked with bands called Ark, Beyond Twilight, Millennium, Vagabond, The Snakes, and Master Plan. And he's a recurring guest for the supergroup Avantasia. And he voices a fictional singer in a League of Legends band. Another video game guy here too.
Okay. I mean, I'm a little shocked to hear League of Legends band.
Yeah. League of Legends is huge, and I've never touched it.
Yeah, I don't know a damn thing about League of Legends. I didn't even watch the Netflix series.
No, why would you? You don't care about League of Legends.
Don't care about League of Legends. Yeah, and this is a hard rock / metal version. So this is an interesting thing, because I feel like we've come across this before.
Yeah.
What this is, and what this seems to be to me is like, sometimes we'll get, often like European bands, where they have like a particular genre. In this case, it's metal. It's not necessarily a specific one, but like it could be any particular genre, where this band is like just the apotheosis of that genre when they play. And it's not necessarily like, they don't necessarily have like a hook or something that's interesting or different about them, but clearly they're like insanely talented and like really, really good. And then they're just using that skill to be like a perfect version of whatever this genre is.
Right. Kind of like when you go to see like an orchestra to bang out the classics.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like these guys are very skilled in classical music. It's like, well, I'm
they're not there to like be this
classic
individual thing. They're there to be part of a rock and roll band.
Yeah, they're there to represent the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say you're right, because there is like my like docked marks for this one are on the instrumentation, which I think leans a little bit too much towards the generic, or what might be the platonic ideal of the genre, as you're kind of saying here.
Yeah, like to a fault kind of thing.
To a fault. But vocally, this thing rips. He's crazy good at singing.
Clearly, yeah, he's got the pipes for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's a metal voice that would sing in this kind of song. Absolutely.
And just, that would sing the song, and like the translation is there. Like the kind of desperation of "if I only could" is present in his vocal delivery. So like it works for me there and kicks ass. I think his singing is awesome on this. But I also have a bit of a soft spot for more like 80s hard rock, which this really plays into. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, you know, a lot of elements. You get that like actually kind of sludgy chugging distorted guitars. They do switch up the harmonies at times, I think, a little bit. So it's a little more like it gets some like kind of minor stuff going on. So like in verse 2 in particular is where I'm noticing it. If you go around like 135 or so is my timestamp, which I don't think happened in the original, or I didn't notice it. Obviously they have the metal vocals like you said, and then like metal backups, and then there's a little bit of that double kick. There's this like synth organ that you get in that really big hard rock and metal stuff for harmonies, and then of course there's a guitar solo after the bridge, and then they do the like do a breakdown for half the verse and then build back up, all that kind of stuff. It's all in there. And yeah, it's very, very energetic. Like you said, vocals are very strong, and they're clearly very skilled musicians doing something that's not necessarily the most interesting thing to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like, again, it suffers from the whole Bolivian army problem. Give me some of the original. Give me the heavy metal version.
Yeah, like
change
it too much.
Because, like, the energy, you're right, is 100%. And Jorn finds a way. He starts at 10 and goes up to, like, 15.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, there's no way it's just going to be this. He's like, if I only could. You're like, fuck. Like, that's amazing. But, yeah, the instruments is all like, bump, 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 bump. Every, like, new move is like, well, I heard that in 100 other songs from 1975. Like, who gives a fuck? Which sucks, because I really think his vocals are kick-ass on this, and I fought with myself really hard to keep this version on, because there was like 200 versions of this song I had to go through.
Oh, so many covers of this, yeah.
So many. But yeah, I think vocally it's stellar, and it represents like a good twist on like a twist that works. Like on a vocal perspective, I believe the lyrics coming from this guy. I believe that he wants to body swap with his partner to gain a better understanding. But instrumentally, I believe that it is a cover band just trying to cover a song. That's what I have to say about this one, Alex. Did you watch the music video?
I did watch the music video.
Weird. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly it's mostly nature shots.
Yeah.
But it's nature, but it's like a lake with road access and like a dock.
Yeah.
And he's kind of walking through the wilderness and singing, which is cool. And then sometimes it shows like usually over the lake, it'll overlay like a figure skater.
Yeah, from like from when film was invented, like.
Or at least like it's black and white.
Yeah.
And also the lake is not frozen, but in the footage the lake is frozen.
Yeah. So that's
Or in
it's
the
like a
overlay
little
footage.
like if you ripped a window in time.
Yeah, exactly. It does
And-
have that BioShock Infinite ripping
tearing space-time
look.
kind of feel. And that's cool. Like on its own, that's a neat idea. I do not understand the connection to the song.
Yeah,
to
is it
Dorn.
like I lost my mother?
Yeah.
This is where she used to figure skate, kind of. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, if it's a song like mourning the death of somebody, and then there's like ice sculptures and stuff that are superimposed over shots.
Yeah,
and
showing a lot of, like,
owls.
A tiger,
Mhm.
dragon. I noticed the tiger and the dragon mostly.
Yeah. There's like random images, and it's not superimposed at the speed of like a Butthole Surfers video or something, where it's just like to shock and awe, or like the Foo Fighters video, where it's just like, bam, here's a baby being born, here's a tiger, it's like done slowly enough that you're given time to look at and go, I don't know why this is here, and then it disappears.
Yeah.
Like, surely it'll come up later, and then like a different thing comes up later. You're like,
Okay, ice sculpture of like what looks to be an undead wizard of some kind. There's all kinds of, I mean, cool ice sculptures for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, I don't really get this one.
yeah, and beautiful winter landscape in general. But yeah, I do not
Yeah.
understand its connection to the source material.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, I mean, they've got the like filmic thing going on in that it's like super widescreen, like you get in a theater.
Mm-hmm.
They got this real like film grain on it. Although I wouldn't say the video is like super. I only have 720p, so
Come on, that's not enough P.
yeah, it's not enough P. Need more P.
You gotta bump up that P, bro.
But yeah, it's
It's odd.
It's
It's strange. I like it better than the whole Bolivian Army music video.
there's more going on. At least there's
More
a guy.
going on.
At least there's a guy trying to lip sync.
Yeah.
You can't have a music video if there's no guy trying to lip
This
sync.
meets the MTV requirements for a music video. Speaking of big music organizations that sometimes are involved in music, Spotify once commissioned First Aid Kit to do this
Sometimes
version.
are involved in music. Sometimes Spotify does music stuff, right?
Mostly
Sometimes.
involved in stealing money from people, but
Uh-huh.
First Aid Kit 2018.
And if only could I make a deal with God, not get him to swap our places, be running up that road, be running up that hill, be running up that building.
Yes, First Aid Kit. They're Swedish. Swedish folk duo, but like they have a touring band, so it's like two front people,
Yeah, essentially.
Johanna and Clara Soderberg.
Yes.
Maybe it's Johanna. I have no idea.
Gotcha, Alex.
But yeah, like they have a backing band, but like it's mostly focuses on them. Looks like they play guitar, like an acoustic and electric guitar kind of thing a lot of the time,
Yeah.
and then they harmonize.
Yes. They got some big credits. They've won some awards for being like best Swedish act featuring two sisters and sometimes a backing band. You know, all those like Brit Awards, like best international act, all that kind of shit.
It's really specific stuff.
Yeah, those like awards they give at award ceremonies to be like, come on, we're very inclusive. They hand out the inclusivity award, and it's like, oh,
To
yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, to themselves. Like, thank you. But yeah, that kind of stuff. So they've got around. They got a bit of a name, and that's why Spotify said, hey, please, in the year 2018, cover Running Up That Hill for us.
Yeah. But I've never heard of them before.
No. But they count in Swedish on this.
They do, which is kind of novel.
Yeah, kind of neat.
But yeah, I mean, it's that kind of like there's a lot of that guitar. There's sort of two guitars and they play together. Like it starts out acoustic and then the electric is picking. Like finger picking, and then the electric guitar comes in and they're layered on top of each other. They're both sort of doing the same thing, and then over the course of the song the acoustic turns down and the electric turns up, kind of thing, overtakes it. And then they do the harmonies, and honestly I think it works like as a duet. It makes sense, this song as a duet, or as a heavily harmonized thing, because I mean it's about two people, right? So like even just like on that surface level, it works. But that's kind of what I noticed about it. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a solid take. Yeah, the duo works. It is a pretty sparse version. It really is just like rhythm guitar, a gentle kick drum, and then you get some of that extra guitar, electric guitar, doing some different bits. I think it works also from the like folk perspective. They add a bit of like a haunting tone to it, both in their singing style and just kind of the tone of the acoustic guitar.
I think that's part of the harmonies too. The harmonies they're using.
So I think tonally it conjures a bit of like what makes the original work as well, but in a folk genre rather than in this like pop, avant pop, I guess you'd call it. 80s pop, synth pop. I'm just gonna say pop a few more times. Pop. But yeah, I think it's actually like, and usually like these Spotify takes are kind of not that crazy or not that good. But this is one of the examples where I think is actually a good job, and it's
this one's more interesting than we usually get from a lot of them, because they can feel rushed. And maybe it is like, maybe if we knew more about First Day, could be like, this is what they do on every song,
right?
And they just happened to work for this well. But I don't want to make that assumption.
No, nice little cover here. Which is going to bring us into our last cover by a little group called Car Seat Headrest in 2021.
If only could, I'd make a deal with God, and I'd get in the swamp places. We're running up that road, we're running up that hill, we're running up that building.
Car Seat Headrest, long version.
Yes,
6.5 minutes. And there's a reason for that.
Yes.
It's because the back half of the song, the last 2 minutes of the song is all just like an extended jam session.
Yeah. Which
it's kind of interesting though. This one starts out very sparse, and there's a lot of like layers adding. So it does build a lot.
At how much it grew.
Yeah, and in I think a more meaningful way than we get from like the whole Bolivian army.
Absolutely.
And by meaningful, I mean I thought it sounded cooler.
You're right, and like there are versions of this we would hear. Like it starts out with this really thin, measly synth, really sharp cutoff on it. And that would be where other cover versions would start and end their progression of the song. They're like, that's what we've got, and we're gonna have some twee person sing over it, and that's gonna be it.
Right. That's the we sequence that. Or like if it was just one person, a sequence that I'm going to sing over it. That's the cover.
That's the take. But that's just the start for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it builds quite a bit. We add has just that beat and that synth line, adds a bass and a guitar, adds backup vocals, bunch of vocal layers. Later on, it even gets like a kind of muted, funky strumming guitar, and then another guitar that's playing like licks constantly, just going. And I think there's an accordion. At one point,
is there?
If you go to like 320, it's like pretty low, but I think it's
okay. Hang on,
might be an accordion, might be synth.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I hear it really low in the back there. I also just caught on how much the bass is jamming at that moment.
The bass is jamming, and just like so many guitars.
Yeah, so this one kind of like pulls a twist on you because you're like, okay, it's like some twee indie pop. And then it's like, no, secretly this is like a psychedelic jam sesh.
Yeah. Which after at the 420 mark, interestingly enough, we go into an extended jam session for like 2 minutes. And it sounds different, like it's the same kind of sound, but like different instrumentation. And it has a very similar progression because it starts very low and then builds over the course of it. So it's almost
Yeah.
like we're doing the same thing again, which is, I don't know necessarily how I feel about that. It's maybe not the best decision from a pop perspective, but I was kind of into it.
I was into it, yeah,
But this is definitely more up my alley than, the whole Bolivian army.
absolutely. I think it's
This is
more
sound.
interesting as well. Cart Seat Headrest, we didn't actually talk about the band itself, but they are an established act. Like, they have popular hits. Originally just one dude, Will Toledo.
Maybe that's it.
And
Has a bit of that sound
he
to it.
began it as a solo project in 2010, and between 2010 and 2014 released 12 albums on Bandcamp.
Okay.
And then got signed
Prolific.
and then got a full band behind him, and now he works with a full band and does music. So he has a pretty storied history of solo production, and then I guess also work incorporating a band at this point in his career, that you get a bit of both ends of that, right? Because we do get the solo production at the start, and we do get the full band jam at the end.
Yeah.
They tie together pretty well.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I know one song by Car Seat Headrest, but I do think it is a pretty fucking banger
Is
song.
it this song?
No, it's Drunk Drivers / Killer Whales.
Okay.
Another long one, a 6-minute one, but good listen. Good listen, that. And this album it's off of has a cover of David Bowie's Golden Years,
Interesting.
as well as The Who's Substitute. So this Car Seat Headrest fella has similar interests to me, so that may also be why I respond to this version. But yeah, for the first verse to chorus, it is that minimal stuff, and then we start kicking things in on verse 2, get a little more bass in the mix, get the guitar strumming coming in, we build up, and then we break down at the 420 mark, and then rebuild up. And yeah, I like the guitar on this, that had that kind of funky groove to it. I like the bass moving along. I thought this version was really cool. And the fact that there's things I can miss too, like you mentioned that accordion bit, I didn't even hear that.
Yeah, which honestly, I'd listen to it again. I'm not even sure I hear it anymore.
It
So
might
there's
be a
something
synth, but there's something in the
Yeah.
back there that has a bit of
A little reedy.
a little reedy quality to it. But yeah, cool version, no music video. Alex, let's break this down in our final verdicts because we're running just a hair along here.
We are.
3 categories. We got the worst version, the best version, and the version who you would most like to body swap with.
All right.
Alex, worst version, what is it?
Worst version. I think it's the whole Bolivian army. There were a lot of middle ones in this.
A lot of mids,
But-
that's for sure.
And the whole Bolivian army ultimately is probably a middle one. It just so happens that of those middle ones, it's the one that I just don't really like that much.
Yeah.
So it's not obscenely poor or anything. I didn't think, but it didn't really. I didn't like it that much.
Yeah, I think it just had the least working in its favor.
Yeah.
Other ones had higher highs than it had. So I will agree, yeah, whole Bolivian army, worst version. Alex, what's the best version?
I think we might agree on this as well. 'Cause
I
like I
think we
said,
might.
there's a lot of middle ones in this, but the one I
Mhm.
didn't think was a middle one was Car Seat Headrest.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
So there you go.
And even the car seat headrest version almost plays it safe because it does hit on a lot of the same notes and riffs, but that was also missing in a lot of the other versions.
Which was odd. I guess there's so many covers of this.
Yeah,
Maybe
tons.
we just
A
stumbled
lot of
across
them
the
were
ones that didn't do it.
exercise and dance mixes though, so I kind of tried to avoid those. Just because they didn't sound that different from the original, which already has a crazy good synth hook. You don't really need to build on that. But this one slipped through the cracks, and I agree. I think it is the best version. I think it's just a cool take on it, and it has things I like in it. What do you want from me? But Alex, who are you gonna body swap with? Who you Freaky
body
Friday
swap
with
with?
one of these artists? Who is
Man, could you imagine body swapping with the entire Bolivian army?
this?
That would be something, right?
That would be something else.
I mean,
All
You
5
have
of them in
access to-
Toledo or wherever they're
Yeah.
from.
to Bolivia, you'd own Bolivia, and that's all I've ever wanted to own.
You would be a hive mind force.
Yeah, is Bolivia.
Bolivia. Good choice, Alex. A great body swap. Me, I always wanted to sing like a Norse heavy metal man, so I got to go with Yorn.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I would abuse that until my throat hurt, and then I'd be like, sorry, I gotta dip back into my own body now, Jorn. You'd be like, what the fuck?
Sorry, man, I gotta go.
Sorry, bud, I gotta go now. Thanks
I
for the
hear my
ride.
mom calling.
Yeah, just leave him with a sore throat, and I don't know, I'd probably take $20 out of his wallet or something, because I'm a bastard.
20 Norwegian.
20 Norwegian dollars.
Krone?
I'd hide it in the woods somewhere, and then if I ever was in Norway, pick it up.
Krone. I think it's like Krona.
Cronin. Well, Alex, that does it for our final verdicts. You got a different opinion, similar opinion, want to talk about one of the many versions we didn't talk about, hit us up on Twitter, #CoverMePod, @JakeTheCressy, @SomeAlexWiseGuy. Send us comments, questions, concerns, suggestions for future episodes. You can email those to us as well, covermepod@gmail.com. Talk to us, hit us up, let us know what's going on. Tell your friends about us. You are our marketing campaign. Tell your friends, rate and review us on iTunes, or whatever they call it now, Apple Podcasts. We're also on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Podcasts, Yahoo Podcasts, probably iHeartRadio. All of them, guys. We're out there. You know that. And that does it for today's episode of Cover Me. And as we always say on Cover Me, if I only could, I'd make a deal with God. I'd get him to cover me.